Gem of a topic. I love this. This topic involves bathrooms
It
in the
does.
Georgian era. Oh
It
my
does.
goodness. We're going to go to bathrooms and hygiene in the Georgian era. We talked a little bit about hygiene before, but not to the level of bathrooms. When you think of bathrooms today, we imagine running water and tiled floors.
I
But
gotta
what did the bathroom actually look like in the Georgian era?
put that up. Okay. Well, it was different, and it was different for different people. But I'd like to even start talking about in the 14th century. In the 14th century, England, they had what they called a jerry proper. And this is before they had the need to hide those kind of things. And so it sat at the foot of the bed, and it had a seat, and then the basically it was a chamber pot underneath. But can you imagine that at the foot of your bed? The smell. Well, in the 1400s, like 1440, somewhere 1450, there was a man, and he invented a whole system so that you could have a toilet and have pipes that ran down into like a cesspit, and then a cistern that would be on the roof that would collect water and that it would come down. So it was that's that's where they came up with the word water closet, because of the water that would collect in the cistern and run down. So when you pulled a chain, the water would come through and then go down through the pipes and out to this cesspot. And do you know that architects and people that draw plans for housing still call it a water closet on the documents? It's
Oh
still
my
called a water
goodness.
closet. Isn't that funny?
It is.
I know. Um, and then I can't remember where exactly in England, but it was when was it? In the 1600s, a man was arrested because he built a toilet that evacuated into a stream, and the neighbors found out about it, and so he was prosecuted. And they should still do that, but they don't.
Exactly. How did people of different social classes handle their daily hygiene from aristocrats with chamber pots to commoners with outdoor privies?
um, well, there wasn't a whole lot of difference in the early years. Um, the wealthy would have chamber pots, of course, and they would do their business, especially if it was at night, and they'd use the chamber pot and then tuck it under the bed. Blah. So their maids would come and clean those out. That's disgusting. Poor people didn't have that advantage. They might have chamber pots, but they just dumped them. And a lot of times they just dumped them to the curbs. Um, in London in the 1700s was a pretty smelly place because you had human feces and human excrement, and then you had horse manure because that was the main mode of transportation, right? Horses. And so the horses would just do their stuff whenever they needed to. And to try and cross the street to get from one side to another was a major deal because there weren't really curbs. Some of the I think in the late 1700s, you were beginning to see the semblance of a curb with a sidewalk. But before that, there wasn't really anything like that. And if you wanted to cross the street, you had to go through all this muck. that
Mhm.
poor boys came up with a genius idea of if you wanted to cross the street, they would sweep it for you for a nickel, so you could cross the street without stepping in anything.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's what they did to make money. Isn't that cute?
No,
Little,
thank you.
yeah, I know. But the wealthy, at one point, and that was the very wealthy, and it was in the late 1700s, like 1790 something. Somebody did come up with a trap, a valve so that all the smell uh, would be trapped and go on out, but they still, all the waste would go through a pipe and go into a cesspit. So it was, and then they had like um, a community cesspit, so that 4 or 5 houses would share the cesspit. And then these men would come through and they had a name. Let me see if I can find it real quick. If I can't find it, I'll tell you later. But these men, their job was to come and drain the cesspit. Is that a disgusting job or what? But it was a job. They made money doing it. Um, they I can't find it now.
All right, yeah, we'll just go to this next question because I don't like this one's not nasty too. Bathing wasn't a daily routine as it is today.
No.
What were the common beliefs and fears about bathing during this time?
Early on, they thought that you made you vulnerable to diseases if you cleaned your body, if you uh, washed all that stuff off, then you were washing off protection. And so, but they knew some of them would know that they smell bad, so they put on powder and perfume. Those wigs that they wore, they put powder on them. So, I mean, if you touch the wig, you could see the powder, like a powder puff, come off the top of their heads. Yeah, they thought that bathing was dangerous. And then when they started to bathe, poor people might not ever bathe. Um, they might, if they were lucky, they might bathe once a month. Um, the wealthy, in our books, we kind of hint that they were bathing often, but they didn't. If they had a bath once a week, maybe once or twice a week was it. I would think, though, in today, believe it or not, today, if you have a person that is more sedentary, they may not need to bathe every day. And so the pendulum has swung from never bathing to bathing every day, and all of a sudden, the the necessity to bathe every day is not really there anymore.
Okay. The Georgian era saw the development of early flushing closets, which we talked about.
Right, we've already
How
talked.
revolutionary were these inventions and who actually had access to them? Just the rich, right? Pretty much.
The very wealthy in Mayfair. Mayfair was an area of town, and even in Mayfair, there might have only been a few people that had that. First of all, they had to design the area. They had to put in a tub. They called them standing baths, and they had to. There was so much renovation that had to be done in order to put in a water closet and a bathtub. Very few, and think, Neil, think of the technicalities involved, getting the water to, getting the water from, putting the pipes.
Yeah.
Where where was everything coming from? Where was everything going to? um, it was a major deal. Tearing the walls out, putting things in. Yeah, it was a big deal. And even the wealthy people, you had to have a lot of money. We're talking um, King George kind of money.
So, perfumes, powders, and scented waters often stood in for soap and scrubbing.
True.
How important was smell in the Georgian ideas of cleanliness?
Well, yeah, and we talked about that briefly that people would use perfume, and they had um, places where you could go and they would mix a smell for you, a perfume or a scent, which is kind of neat. And I know that they have a few of those in New York, maybe in Chicago. You don't see those all over the place like you did in London at the time, but they would devise a scent for you. Smells were trying to hide a smell was kind of what they what they did. Rather than cleaning the smell off, they tried to cover it. Which have you ever? I have been around people that were smelled really bad and then put on a lot of perfume to cover it,
Yeah.
and it's just an attack of god awful smells because the odor, the BO and the dirt smell is pungent and burns the nose. And then they put on all the perfume, which it is really makes your
Yeah,
eyes water.
totally. All right. The best place to go is minavalentine.com. I love this topic, and I know your fans will. minavalentine.com, and make sure you connect with her on social,
Oh, please
especially
buy my
TikTok.
books. Buy my books.
All right.